Here's a quick video on how to use this graph to identify velocity and acceleration. I'll walk you through how to do section L. Please try to find the velocity of section M and section P as well. After you watch this video, hopefully you're going to be able to do that. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So when we're talking about velocity, remember our power triangle, velocity equals distance over time. I'll write both just as a reminder, so velocity equals distance over time. Here's our distance and here's our time. So remember, when you're talking about graphing, it's always important to identify your x and y axis so you can identify what your graph is telling you. So we can find velocity from this because we know velocity is dealing with distance and time. So here's our section L right here. It's this distance in this line. So we're going to look at, to find our distance, we need to figure out some points on the graph. So our distance starts here, and if you're looking at your scale between these two, we know that that is 6.5 meters. And so we're just looking at identifying where does L start, and then to identify where L ends, we're going to go down here and then over to the side, and so we see that L ends at 5 meters. So the first part of this that you need to figure out is what is your distance, and you use your points on the graph to help you identify that. So it starts at 6.5 meters and it ends at 5 meters. And to identify your total distance, take 6.5 meters, subtract it by 5 meters, and your total distance is 1.5 meters. So that's part of it. Your other variable that you need to identify is time. And so when we look at this, we identify that we are starting at 0. So we're going to follow this point all the way down to time, starts at 0. And then we're going to also identify that it ends here at 2. And we are in seconds. So it starts at 0 seconds and it ends at 2 seconds. Thus our time is 2 total seconds. And so to find the velocity, we're going to take our distance divided by our time, and we just found that over here. So we're going to take our section L, again, just trying to label so you guys remember where we're solving for. So section L, velocity equals distance over time. So our distance was 6.5 meters. Our time was 2 seconds. To calculate that, you just divide, and then it's 3.25 meters per second. Because I'm asking for velocity, I have to include a direction, and so it's 3.25 meters per second forward. So when you're going to find M and P, in terms of the velocity, use the same skills that we used here. Find your distance, and using our points over on this axis, and then use this tool and find your time. And then obviously you can check the key to help you, or hop on a classroom meet and we can walk through it for you one more time as well. So please don't hesitate to ask questions if you have concerns or questions on how to find that velocity. So moving on real quick on how to find the acceleration of L. So if we're trying to find the acceleration of L, what we're going to do is use our velocities to help us, because we know that our acceleration equals the change in velocity over the time, okay? So our velocity final, because we were just dealing with our calculating for our velocity, when we get to this point, the final velocity of L should be 3.25 meters per second, because we just solved for that in the problem above. So we know it starts here, and so it ends here, and our final velocity is 3.25 meters per second. Our initial velocity, we're starting at 0, so our initial velocity is 0. So then, when we look at our time, what we're going to do is identify it's still our section L, and so section L hasn't changed times, it's still 2 seconds. And we're now going to plug in our problem. So we're going to take our final velocity, which is 3.25 meters per second, minus, oops, I pushed pause there on accident, minus our initial velocity, which was 0 because we started at rest, divided by our time, and our acceleration of section L will be 1.625 meters per second. Okay, again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions on how to do this.